think of your favorite Disney movie and think of where Disney originally got those ideas for the movie. Have you ever thought that maybe they were derived from older stories from way back then? An example of such movie would be The Little Mermaid, one of my favorite movies. It's sad and actually a lot more scarier than people seem to think it is. And it is derived from one of the very older stories from the 1800s. It's originally called The Little Mermaid, and The Little Mermaid has no name. She's just called Little Mermaid. It was written by Hans Christian Andersen, and it was written in 1836. I have read this story numerous times, and always enjoyed reading it. So it's about a girl who gave up her family for a boy, which sounds similar to the movie, but it's actually very much different. The Disney movie was written and filmed in 1989. In the original story, the Little Mermaid and her 5 sisters needed permission to go to the surface, and they could only ask for that permission when they were 15 years old. When Little Mermaid became of age, her grandmother had a few words for her, mainly just advice as to what to look for whenever she reached the surface. But before she went to the surface, the grandmother would put oysters on her granddaughters to represent their royal status, because they were still royal down in the castle. The oysters that were put on the Little Mermaid were 8, and they went on her tail. The Little Mermaid did not like this because the oysters hurt her tail, and she didn't want them on there. The grandmother's response was, "Pride must suffer pain." So originally in the movie, you see a happy family that sings and all these dancing fishes, but in the story, it's about pride and royal status, and not so much about family, it seems. The oysters represent a high rank, so looks are what mattered. It's also said that mermaids suffer a lot more because when they cry, they don't shed tears, because tears are salt water, but they're already in the ocean, so they suffer more, and they don't get the satisfaction of crying. When the Little Mermaid decided she wanted to go to the surface, she saw the prince. And just as the movie played out, the prince was in trouble, almost drowned. She saved him. But what's different about this part is the Sea Witch's house was a lot more scarier than what Disney had depicted. It was actually made of human bones from sailors that drowned. And the witch was not an octopus, she was just a regular fish. And in order to get to the surface, she had to make a deal. The Little Mermaid did. The witch warned her that it would feel like a sword was slicing through her fin. She would be in a lot of agony and pain. Whenever she had feet, it would feel like she's walking on knives. And she would never see her family again if she succeeded into winning the prince's heart. Which in turn, when she did that, she would gain an immortal soul. Mermaids do not have immortal souls in this story. They live for 300 years and then they turn into the sea foam. But if she won the heart of the prince, then she would gain that immortal soul and live out her short years as a human with him. And as for payment for this, instead of just taking her voice like Disney had shown, the Sea Witch cuts her tongue off completely. She cannot talk, she cannot sing, and she will never gain that right back ever again. When the Little Mermaid reaches to the surface and she gets the attention of the prince, and she becomes great friends with him, and he refers to her as the dumb foundling because she has no tongue, and back then people were considered dumb for some reason and they would call them that. But instead of the original ending for The Little Mermaid in Disney, he falls for another woman and actually marries her. Not because of the Sea Witch, but because that's just what happens in the story. She danced, the Little Mermaid danced at the wedding until her feet bled because she was very upset, and she will die the next morning with no soul, and she will turn into the sea foam. Little Mermaid's family cuts their hair off and gives it to the witch as payment to try and get the Little Mermaid to come back down into the ocean. They give her a knife to plunge into the prince's heart, and the blood that comes from the prince's heart must fall on her feet, to which then her feet will turn back into a mermaid fin. But she couldn't kill the prince. She couldn't find it in her because she loved him so much. And instead of living out her human years, she threw herself into the ocean and was okay with dying and turning into the sea foam. So in the end, she actually didn't turn into sea foam. Women called Daughters of the Air came to her rescue and said this, and she was such a good person and she did such good deeds that they would give her a chance to do more good deeds and earn her right for an immortal soul and to descend in heaven. In conclusion, the movie shows a girl getting what she wants, but the story shows also how important family is. In the beginning of the story, status mattered. In the end, the family gave up their hair and whatever they could to be able to get the Little Mermaid to come back down into the ocean and live out her 300 years. So she was given a chance to descend to heaven with a soul.